I always thought my 18th birthday would be the beginning of something new, a doorway into freedom, maybe even respect. Instead, it became the night my world shattered. The cake was still glowing with candles, my friends laughing, my mom Laura smiling nervously across the table. For a split second, I let myself believe Richard, my stepdad, might finally acknowledge me as his daughter. But then he stood up, his chair scraping across the floor, and silence devoured the room. His eyes were cold, merciless, as he said the words that sliced straight into me. "You're not my real daughter, and starting tonight, you're out of this house." Gasps filled the air. Before I could even breathe, he hurled a plastic bag stuffed with my clothes at my feet. My mom trembled, but said nothing. So I picked it up, walked into the pouring rain, and that's when a black car pulled up beside me. The rain hadn't started yet when Richard threw the bag at my feet, but it felt like a storm had already broken inside me. My hands trembled as I picked it up, my cheeks burning under the weight of every stare in the room. My best friend, Maya, shifted in her chair. Her lips parted as if she wanted to say something, but I shot her a tiny shake of my head. I couldn't bear for anyone to make this uglier than it already was. "Richard, please," my mom whispered, her voice cracking. "Not here, not like this." He snapped his head toward her, eyes like steel. "Laura, she's 18. She's no longer my responsibility. She's nothing to me, and the sooner she understands that, the better." I wanted to scream, to shout that I was something, that I mattered, but my throat closed tight, suffocating me. "Mom," I whispered, desperate, my voice nearly breaking. "Say something. Tell him I don't have to leave." Her hands clutched the edge of the table, knuckles white, but she didn't move. Richard's hand rested heavy on the back of her chair, a silent threat. And that silence, her silence, it hurt worse than his words. I looked around the room. My friends stared down at their plates, eyes wide, mouths pressed shut. No one wanted to be part of this war. No one wanted to defy the man towering over me. "You have 5 minutes," Richard said flatly. "Then I want you out of this house." I swallowed hard, my chest burning. Every part of me wanted to argue, to demand answers, to scream that he was cruel, heartless, inhuman. But I could see it in his face. He wanted this moment. He wanted to humiliate me, to strip me of dignity in front of everyone I loved. So I did the only thing I could. I bent down, grabbed the bag, and stood tall, even though my legs were shaking beneath me. My voice came out as a whisper, almost lost in the tension. "Fine. If you don't want me here, I'll go." Maya shot up from her chair. "Harper, wait." "No." I cut her off quickly. My eyes stung with tears I refused to let fall. "Don't. Please, just let me go." I turned toward the door. My mom let out a choked sob, but she still didn't stop me. She still didn't choose me. That was the final wound. As I opened the front door, the first drops of rain hit my skin, cold and sharp like the truth I could no longer deny. I didn't belong here. I never had. By the time I stepped onto the street, the sky opened up completely, drenching me in seconds. The bag dug into my shoulder. My shoes slapped against wet pavement, and every step away from that house felt like walking further into exile. But I kept walking, because staying meant breaking. And I refused to let Richard see me break. The rain poured harder with every step I took, plastering my hair to my face and soaking through my thin dress until it clung to my skin. The plastic bag Richard had thrown at me was already sagging, its thin handles cutting into my palm. It wasn't just heavy with clothes, it felt like it carried every ounce of shame I had been collecting for years. I wanted to look back, to see if maybe, just maybe, my mom would come running after me. But when I glanced over my shoulder, the house was nothing more than a shadow behind sheets of rain. The warm glow from the windows mocked me, a reminder of a family I never truly belonged to. My throat burned as tears mixed with raindrops. I kept replaying the moment Richard's words cut through the party. "You're not my real daughter. And starting tonight, you're out." Why did it hurt so much when I had always known he hated me? Maybe because part of me had still hoped foolishly that turning 18 would change something, that he might finally see me as more than a burden. Stupid, I muttered to myself. my voice trembling. So stupid. I stumbled forward, shoes slapping against the wet sidewalk, water squishing inside them. My breath came out in shaky gasps, each one colder than the last. Memories clawed at me, uninvited. Richard's voice, sharp and impatient. Don't slouch, Harper. You're too slow. Figure it out yourself. Howdy, stop wasting my time. Each word came back to me like shards of glass, slicing through the silence of the storm. But there had been moments of light, two tiny flickers I held onto when everything else was dark. Like when Uncle David came by with birthday cards and actually looked me in the eye when he said, "Happy birthday, kiddo. You matter, don't forget that." Or when Maya would sneak me out to the park just so I could breathe away from Richard's shadow. Those moments felt so small now compared to the mountain of rejection that pressed on my chest. A car roared by, spraying a wave of cold water across my legs. I stumbled, almost dropping the bag, and bit down hard on my lip to stop from crying out. My whole body ached, not just from the cold, but from the emptiness. The world around me blurred, streetlights bleeding into the storm like smudged paint. I wrapped my arms around myself and whispered into the rain, "Where do I go now?" No answer came. Only the pounding of the storm and the hollow echo of my own footsteps. Still, I kept walking. Because what else was there to do? Turning back meant humiliation. Turning back meant begging. And I swore I would never give Richard the satisfaction of seeing me crawl. So I pushed forward, step by step, even as my heart shattered with every drop of rain. The storm outside wasn't the only storm I carried. With each step, memories I had tried to bury rose up, clawing their way into my mind like ghosts that refused to stay dead. I was 10 the first time Richard called me dead weight. He had just married my mom, and I thought maybe he would try to be a real father figure. That night, I left a dish in the sink, and he barked at me. "You think I'm your maid? Clean it up. You're not my responsibility, Harper." I still remember how his words stung worse than the sting of hot dishwater on my small hands. I tried so hard to win him over. I'd bring him drawings from school, little stick figures of a family that included him. Once, I timidly placed one on the counter. He barely glanced at it. "Don't leave junk lying around." He crumpled it into a ball and tossed it aside. I was just a kid, but even then, I learned fast. Silence was safer. Being invisible was easier. Mom used to tell me, "Just let it go, Harper. Don't push him." Her voice would shake when she said it, like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. She wanted peace. I wanted love. And we both got nothing. I kicked at a puddle, sending ripples across the black water, my breath catching as another memory hit me harder this time. The night of my 15th birthday. No party, no cake. Mom was working late at the clinic, and Richard sat in his chair watching TV. I had whispered, "It's my birthday today." He didn't even look at me. He just grunted, "So? You want a medal?" I went to bed that night clutching a pillow, trying to believe that tomorrow might be different. But tomorrow never came. And yet, some part of me still hoped. Even this morning, when I woke up on my 18th birthday, I told myself things might change. Maybe he would say, "I'm proud of you, Harper." Maybe we'd have a normal dinner. Maybe just one day where I didn't feel like a stranger in my own house. But tonight had crushed that last shred of hope. The rain blurred the world around me, but I could still see Richard's face in my mind twisted with contempt. His words like poison. "You're not my real daughter. And you're out." I bit my lip hard, tasting blood, trying to stop the sob that clawed up my throat. "Why wasn't I ever enough?" I whispered into the storm. The only answer was the thunder overhead, loud and merciless. Just like him. I hugged the bag closer to my chest, shaking from the cold and the memories. My whole life felt like it had been leading to this moment. Not the party, not the cake, but the walk in the rain. The walk away from everything I had ever known. The rain pounded against my skin, but it was nothing compared to the storm that had broken inside the house just moments earlier. I couldn't stop replaying it, the sound of Richard's chair scraping across the floor, the way his voice thundered like a verdict in a courtroom. 18 years, he had said, his arms crossed like a judge passing sentence. 18 years of pretending, and I'm done. I remember freezing, my fork clattering onto the plate. My friends stared at me, their laughter dying instantly, Maya's eyes widened in horror. What? What are you talking about? I had whispered, my voice shaking. Richard sneered, his lip curling. You heard me, Harper. You're not my real daughter. You never were. And tonight, you're leaving this house. My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. I looked at my mom, silently begging her to say something, to defend me. But Laura just sat there, pale and trembling, her hands clenched in her lap. Richard, please, she whispered, her voice breaking. Not here, not in front of everyone. In front of everyone is exactly the point, Richard barked, slamming his fist on the table. Plates rattled, glasses shook. She's old enough. The truth needs to be said. I've carried this burden long enough. I felt the blood drain from my face. Burden. That's what I was to him. Mom, I choked, my eyes filling with tears. Tell him he can't do this. Tell him I belong here. Her lips parted. But before she could speak, Richard's heavy hand clamped down on the back of her chair. His eyes sliced into hers like knives. Stay out of this, Laura. You've coddled her long enough. Tonight it ends. The silence was unbearable. My heart pounded in my ears, drowning out everything else. Then he bent down and grabbed a plastic grocery bag from the floor. My stomach dropped when I saw it bulging with my clothes, my life reduced to a handful of wrinkled fabric. He tossed it at my feet. The thud echoed like a gunshot. There, he said coldly. That's all you need. Take it and go. I stood frozen, my hands shaking. The humiliation burned hotter than any fire. My friends shifted uncomfortably. One of them let out a nervous laugh, but it died instantly when Richard didn't flinch. Richard, stop, Maya suddenly burst out, pushing her chair back. Her voice trembled but held fury. You can't just throw her out like garbage. Maya, don't, I snapped, my voice cracking. I couldn't let her fight this battle for me. My humiliation was mine alone. Richard smirked, his eyes narrowing on me. See? Even your friend knows you don't belong here. Do yourself a favor, Harper. Don't drag anyone else down with you. Something inside me snapped. For 18 years I had stayed quiet, swallowed his words, accepted his cruelty, but not tonight. My fists clenched, my voice shaking but loud enough for everyone to hear. You're right about one thing, Richard. I'm not your daughter. And thank God for that. Because if being your daughter means growing up to be as bitter and heartless as you, then I'd rather be nothing to you. Gasps rippled around the table. My mom's hand flew to her mouth. Maya's eyes welled with tears. Richard's face twisted with rage, but I didn't give him the satisfaction of another word. I bent down, grabbed the bag, and turned toward the door. My mom's voice broke through the silence. Harper, just my name. Weak, empty. I stopped, my hand on the doorknob, waiting, hoping for her to say more. To say, don't go. You belong here. I'll fight for you. But nothing came, only silence. I opened the door, and the storm swallowed me whole. The rain drenched me instantly, cold and merciless, but at least it was honest. It didn't pretend to love me while pushing me away. Each step I took was heavy, but it was mine. For the first time, leaving felt like the only choice I had left. The storm had swallowed me whole. Rain pelted down so hard it stung my skin, soaking through the thin fabric of my dress until I was shivering. My sneakers slapped against the sidewalk, squelching with every step, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. If I stopped, the truth of what just happened would crush me completely. I clutched the sagging plastic bag against my chest like a lifeline, though it felt more like a cruel joke, a reminder that in Richard's eyes, everything I owned could fit into a single grocery bag. My thoughts spun. Where will I go? What will I eat? Will Mom come after me? But deep down I already knew the answer. She had chosen silence. Silence was louder than any words she could have spoken. A low hum broke through the roar of the rain. At first, I thought it was thunder, but then headlights cut through the darkness, glowing too bright, too deliberate. My shoulders tensed. A sleek black car slowed to a crawl beside me, its tires hissing against the wet pavement. I froze. My grip on the bag tightened until the plastic bit into my palm. The tinted window rolled down with a smooth mechanical hum, and a man leaned out. His face was shadowed, his jawline sharp, his dark hair plastered by rain. His voice, however, was calm, steady in a way that sent a shiver racing down my spine. "Are you Harper?" he asked. I swallowed hard, the storm drowning out my heartbeat. My lips trembled as I forced out, "Yeah, I'm Harper." The man gave a short nod, like he'd just confirmed something he already knew. Then his words hit me like lightning. "Your real father sent me." For a second, the world tilted. I blinked at him, rain dripping from my lashes. "What?" My voice cracked. "What are you talking about?" He didn't flinch. His tone stayed calm, deliberate. "Your real father. He's been searching for you. He asked me to find you tonight." I stumbled back a step, clutching the bag tighter, my body trembling not just from the cold but from the surge of emotions his words ignited. My real father? All my life, Mom had avoided the subject. Whenever I asked, she'd give me fragments. He was young. It was complicated. Then she'd shut down, her eyes distant, as if even speaking his name was forbidden. And now, here was a stranger in a black car, telling me the man I'd only ever dreamed of had sent him to me. The rain hammered harder, my tears lost in the downpour. "Why now?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "Why tonight?" The man's gaze locked onto mine, unwavering. "Because tonight you're finally free. Richard made sure your father couldn't reach you before, but now you're 18. He wanted me to come for you the moment you no longer belonged to Richard's house." My chest tightened, confusion and hope colliding violently inside me. Could this be real? Or was this some twisted trick? "I don't even know who you are," I shot back, my voice sharp despite the tears. He leaned a little closer, rain dripping from the edge of the car's roof. "My name is Callan. I've worked with your father for years. He sent me because he knew this night would come. He didn't want you to be alone in the storm." I staggered, my knees weak. My father. Not gone. Not forgotten. Waiting for me? I shook my head, clutching the bag tighter, my breath ragged. "If you're telling the truth, then tell me his name. My father's name." Callan didn't hesitate. His voice was steady, firm. "Ethan. Ethan Hale. And he's been waiting for you for 18 years. The name struck me like a lightning bolt. My mother had whispered it once, years ago, when she thought I was asleep. Ethan. She'd said it with a softness I had never heard from her before. Now, hearing it from a stranger, in the middle of the storm, it was like the ground shifted beneath me. I pressed my hand against my mouth, the bag sliding down my side as my grip faltered. My breath came out in shaky sobs. Could it be true? Had I really been wanted all along? And if so, what else had been hidden from me? The storm roared around me, but Callan's words were louder than the thunder. Ethan Hale. The name clung to me, familiar yet foreign, like a half-forgotten dream. My breath hitched. "You expect me to believe this? That some father I've never met just sent you to pick me up like an abandoned package?" Callan didn't flinch. His hands gripped the steering wheel, steady, as if he had rehearsed this moment. "Not abandoned, Harper. Stolen. Your father didn't leave you. Richard made sure you would never know the truth." The rain pelted harder, my pulse racing. "Don't lie to me." My voice cracked, tears spilling down my cheeks. If he wanted me, where was he when I was 10? When Richard called me worthless? Where was he when I cried myself to sleep every night? For the first time, Callan's expression softened. He reached over to the passenger seat and lifted a small envelope, edges damp from the storm. He held it out through the open window. "He was fighting for you, and he never stopped. Read this." My hands shook as I took the envelope. The paper was thick, expensive, so unlike the cheap plastic bag Richard had given me. I slid my finger under the flap and pulled out two things, a folded letter and a photograph. The photo stole my breath first. A younger man with dark hair and strong eyes cradled a newborn wrapped in a hospital blanket. His smile was wide, proud, unshakable. The baby was me. I pressed the photo to my chest, my tears blurring the image. My voice came out as a whisper. He held me. "He never wanted to let you go," Callan said quietly. My trembling hands unfolded the letter. The ink was bold, written in a steady, deliberate hand. "Harper, my daughter, I have waited 18 years for this moment. Not a day has passed that I haven't searched for you. I wanted to be there for every birthday, every scraped knee, every laugh, and every tear. But I was forced away. Richard twisted everything, took you from me, and made sure I could never reach you. But nothing ever changed this truth. You are my daughter, and I love you, always. The words blurred as my tears spilled faster. My lips trembled as I whispered them out loud. You are my daughter, and I love you. The letter slipped in my shaking hands. My chest ached so deeply I thought I might collapse. All this time, I whispered, my voice breaking, I thought I was unwanted. That's what Richard wanted me to believe. Callan's eyes met mine through the storm. That was his greatest lie. You were never unwanted, Harper. You were never forgotten. Your father never stopped fighting. I hugged the letter and photograph to my chest, sobbing openly now. For the first time in my life, the weight of 18 years of rejection cracked, and a fragile ember of hope glowed inside me. But doubt still clawed at me. Why now? Why tonight? Because tonight, Richard set you free, Callan said firmly. Your father has been waiting for this day, the day you turned 18, the day Richard no longer had control over you. He sent me the moment you were out that door. I shook my head, dizzy with everything unraveling at once. My whole life had been built on lies, and now the truth stood right in front of me in the pouring rain. I looked back toward the house, its windows still glowing faintly in the distance. Inside was the man who had broken me, and the mother who had stayed silent. Then I looked at the photograph again, the man holding me as a baby, his eyes filled with nothing but love. My voice trembled, but steadied as I whispered, "Take me to him." Callan nodded once. "Get in, Harper. It's time you finally met your father." The hum of the engine was the only sound inside the car as Callan drove me away from the house I had called home for 18 years. The rain softened to a drizzle, the storm easing, as if the sky itself knew something was shifting. I clutched the photo and letter in my lap, my fingers trembling. Every time I glanced down at my baby self in Ethan's arms, my chest tightened with a strange mix of grief and hope. My voice finally broke the silence. Is he really waiting for me? Right now?" Callan nodded through the rearview mirror. "He hasn't slept tonight. He knew Richard would do this. He's been preparing for this moment for years, Harper." The road wound through tall trees, headlights sweeping across wet branches. My heart raced faster with every mile. When the car slowed, turning into a long driveway lit faintly by lanterns, my breath caught. At the end stood a large house, its windows glowing warmly against the damp night. The car stopped. My hands shook as I clutched the letter tighter. Callan turned to me, his voice gentle. "He's inside." I swallowed hard, nerves tangling in my stomach. My entire body felt like it was trembling. What if he doesn't want me anymore? What if this is some mistake? Callan's gaze was steady. "The only mistake was Richard keeping you from him. Go, you'll see." The door opened, and the cool night air brushed against my damp skin. My legs wobbled as I stepped onto the gravel path. Each step felt heavier, as though I was walking not just toward a house, but toward the truth I had been denied all my life. And then the door opened. A man stood in the doorway, his figure illuminated by the warm light inside. His hair was streaked with gray, his face older than in the photo, but those eyes were mine. He froze when he saw me, his hand gripping the doorframe. "Harper!" His voice trembled with disbelief and longing, the sound of a man who had been waiting far too long. My knees buckled, my breath catching. You're real." He stepped forward, his own eyes glistening. "I am. And I've been waiting for you every single day of your life." The dam inside me shattered. I dropped the plastic bag of clothes onto the ground and stumbled forward. Before I could collapse, his arms wrapped around me, strong and steady, pulling me against his chest. I broke. Years of silence, rejection, and loneliness poured out of me in sobs that shook my entire body. He held me tighter, as if afraid I might disappear if he let go. "You were never unwanted," Ethan whispered into my hair. His voice was raw, full of tears. "You were stolen from me. But you are mine, Harper, and I am yours, always." I clung to him, my fists gripping his shirt as if letting go would mean losing him again. All this time, I thought I was nothing. I thought nobody wanted me. He pulled back just enough to cup my face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away the tears. His eyes locked onto mine, fierce and unshakable. You are everything to me. Not a day passed that I didn't fight for you, and now, finally, you're here. The words filled the empty spaces in me I had carried for years. For the first time in my life, I felt what it meant to belong, not because someone tolerated me, but because someone claimed me without hesitation. Behind us, Callan quietly closed the car door, giving us space. Ethan drew me inside, guiding me toward the warm light of the house. The smell of wood smoke and fresh bread wrapped around me like a blanket. We sat at the kitchen table, the photograph and letter still clutched in my hand. Ethan never stopped looking at me, his gaze drinking in every detail as though he was making up for 18 lost years. I tried to come for you, he said, voice breaking, but Richard twisted the truth. He lied to your mother. He made me out to be the villain. By the time I could fight back, too much damage was done. They kept you from me. My heart ached, torn between anger at Richard, grief at my mother's silence, and relief at the man in front of me. So all those nights, when I thought I was alone, my voice cracked. You still wanted me? He reached across the table and took my hand firmly. Every single night. Every single day. You were never alone, Harper. I carried you here. He pressed his hand to his chest. Every second, tears blurred my vision again. But this time they weren't just from pain. They were from healing. For the first time, I wasn't Harper the unwanted. I was Harper, daughter of Ethan Hale, and I was finally home. The days that followed blurred together like a dream I was terrified to wake from. For the first time in 18 years, I wasn't walking on eggshells. I didn't have to flinch at the sound of footsteps in the hallway. I didn't have to hold my breath when I spoke, praying not to anger someone who never wanted me in the first place. At Ethan's house, silence wasn't heavy, it was peaceful. The warmth of the fireplace, the smell of coffee in the morning, the simple act of him asking, "Did you sleep well?" All of it felt foreign, almost surreal. I would catch him watching me sometimes, as though memorizing me, and instead of shame, I felt safe. One evening, he pulled out a wooden box from a shelf and placed it in front of me. "These were meant for you," he said softly. Inside were birthday cards, 18 of them. Each sealed, each marked with the year I had been alive. My fingers trembled as I picked one up. On the front of the first card, in bold handwriting, it read, "Happy first birthday, Harper." I opened it and my breath hitched. Inside, the words spilled out like a bomb. "I love you. Even if I can't be there, I'm with you." Every card carried the same message in different words. Love, longing, a promise. Tears streamed down my face as I whispered, "You wrote me every year." Ethan's eyes glistened. "Every year, without fail. Even if you never saw them, I needed you to know that somewhere, someday, you would." I pressed the cards to my chest, sobbing quietly. It was proof, physical proof, that I had never been forgotten. But with that, healing came anger too. Anger at Richard for robbing me of this love. Anger at my mother, for her silence. One night by the fire, I finally asked, "Do you think Mom loved me? Because she never fought for me." Ethan's face was pained. He stared into the flames before answering. "She did love you, Harper, but she was trapped. Richard made her afraid. She chose silence, thinking it would protect you both. I don't agree with her choices, but don't ever believe it was because you weren't loved." His words didn't erase the wound, but they softened it, just enough to breathe. I sat back, staring at the flicker of firelight. All those years, I thought I was unwanted. A mistake. Tonight, I finally understand I was wanted all along. I was stolen, not abandoned. Ethan reached over and gripped my hand firmly. "Exactly. Don't let Richard's lies define who you are. You're my daughter. You always were. Nothing can change that." And for the first time, I believed it. The storm that had once drowned me now felt like a turning point. Richard had thrown me out, yes, but by doing so, he had set me free. Free to find my truth. Free to find my father. Free to find myself. I thought of that moment on the sidewalk, drenched and broken, when the black car slowed beside me. It felt like fate had rolled down that window and given me back everything I had lost. Now, sitting here in the warm glow of a home that finally felt like mine, I whispered to myself, I lost a house, but I found a home. I lost the man who rejected me, but I found the father who had always wanted me. For 18 years, I had carried the weight of rejection. Tonight, I let it go. Because I was never unwanted. I was never forgotten. I was Harper Hale, and I